Hello, my name is Barry, and I'm going to do a commentary on a book I read, a rather new book called The Bragg Cartel. By Seth Harp. It's a very disturbing book about the mostly problems they've had in the military in North Carolina and the Fayetteville, North Carolina area. The big issues with drugs, suicides, domestic violence, and a whole host of things that have been a byproduct of these all this continuous warfare that our military is engaged in. And it's actually a very extremely disturbing book. The content describing so many murders, so many domestic violence situations, so many suicides, and rampant drug use. It is shocking to me because we look at, especially, this involves a lot of Delta Force people and Rangers, and because Fort Bragg is the home of all these special units, and it's disturbing because these units, handle all this classified activity, and they pretty much it's hands off as far as the accountability. They're in secret black operations and beyond the purview of regular law enforcement, and they have political coverage. And it's, understandable, or should have been understandable, that when you have people, we've had long-running war in Afghanistan and Iraq, and you have people, their job is nonstop, going on nonstop kill missions, and eliminating the hierarchy of different organizations, terrorist organizations. These are not a normal situation for people. It's, you can have a traumatic effect on these people, these individuals' psyche, coming back to a civilian environment stateside after you've been 24/7 engaged in terminating people. It's no surprise. And then the competition and the level of readiness and the kind of things you do. These people, it's almost analogous to like professional athletes to remain at a certain level. They're using all kinds of steroids and everything else, because they're going beyond what normal people can do, even with all their training and their fitness. And then these things are happening. The numbers are so great that you can't dismiss it. It can't be papered over. And this Seth Harp has been on some podcast hosted by ex-military members talking about this, but this hasn't really been talked about in the mainstream media very much. It's very, very disturbing, because no matter what these people do, that are, people don't understand, it's just not the the people actually going on the raids, that there's a great logistical or support troops. There's everyone involved, support troops, intelligence, people associated with it, and then their families. And everyone's affected in a very detrimental way. It's very disturbing. And this has been covered up for, 20, 30 years because we've been involved in all these wars. And my message is, if this is covered up at this level, what about the command structure that gives these people orders? If the Delta Force and SEALs and the Rangers and airborne units are doing, the stateside, all committing suicide and dealing drugs and beating up their wives and killing family members and themselves, and this is whitewashed at this level, the people giving them the orders, think about their power to cover up. I mean, they know what's going on. And so you have things like the Epstein thing. It just shows you the higher up you go. These guys aren't at the highest level. These operatives, these military, they're not at the highest level. And they're dealing with, sensitive operations and all this, and this is closed off. It's a very, very disturbing thing. And you look at him, and he's talking about these guys, Delta Force guys, have their own motorcycle club, and when they're not doing their required duties, they're going to their own bars and using prostitutes and whatever they're doing, and they're not held accountable. And family members and a lot of innocent people drawn into this, and this is the byproduct of all this constant warfare and this whole system, this whole military-industrial complex that Eisenhower talked about. It's a big money machine. So the author didn't offer any possible solutions to rectify this situation. But this is extremely disturbing. And once I started reading, I didn't want to stop reading this, as terrible as these things that are being accounted are. And I used to look up at all these people, and it's also a shock to me, because being a former military person myself, I held all these people in the highest, I had the highest regard for these people. And so I could say the Fort Bragg Cartel is a very good read, very informative, and if you're really a serious-minded person, you really care. These are not isolated things. This is going on. It's not just at Fort Bragg. They had a lot of action at Fort Hood. So I encourage you to read this, but, pretty much I feel people are not engaged in knowing how bad this situation is. So, I commend Seth Harp to, doing this book. And there's a lot of damaged individuals out there that only know how to do one thing, which is kill people and blow up things, and this it has a ripple effect across the board. So that's my evaluation of this book. and you couldn't make it into a movie. And there's no glory involved here in flag waving. So thank you for your attention, and over and out.